Hope you're doing really good. I am so tired today, but not from doing Kernow. It's because yesterday I went mountain biking and then we went to the pub and we had a few ciders and some beer, and now I feel dreadful. So managed to completely bounce back from doing Kernow and then totally ruined myself by just being daft. Anyhow, what I want to do today is tell you the story of Kernow, where you set off and ride overnight on Friday night, going to various checkpoints around Cornwall. So the reason I've decided to do this video in a different way to the way I normally do, i.e. tell you the story afterwards and cut in some clips, is because we were doing a lot of riding in the dark and I didn't feel that it was safe to be getting my camera out, film one-handed, because, well, firstly it was dark, but also because I was pretty fatigued on the ride. I haven't done a ride overnight before and I just wanted to be as safe as possible. So filming whilst going along and doing all that sort of stuff I wanted to minimise. So I've got a bunch of clips to share with you and I'm going to tell you the story and insert those clips so that you can see what we actually did, and hopefully you'll find it an interesting way to hear what happened. So let's start at the beginning. Well, the most obvious place to start. If you haven't seen my previous video, that outlines all the kit that I was taking to Kernow and also my kind of strategy for riding with my friend Nikki. Just briefly, the event is a self-supported, self-navigated event that sets off from Rockets and Rascals in Plymouth. You then have to go to 4 checkpoints. Well, it's 3 checkpoints, but then back to Plymouth. So Land's End, Sennin Cove, Padstow, Seaton and back to Plymouth. You have to plot the route yourself, you have to support yourself, you sleep if you want, you don't if you don't want to. You can have it as a full-on kind of race experience, going as fast as you can. I mean, I saw people who didn't take any equipment at all. I mean, none. Or you can take a tent and you can plan to sleep out, stuff like that. So Nikki and I decided we wanted to do the ride relatively quickly, but not like completely go for it, because as I mentioned before, neither of us have ridden overnight or done an event of this kind before, so we just kind of wanted to use this as a bit of a test event and see how it went. Setting off at 6 PM from Rockets and Rascals, our aim was to get back to Rockets and Rascals before 9:30 PM the following evening, where there'd be a party. You're gonna have to keep watching to see if we made that. So we rolled out and the first thing that happened was we ended up sprinting off and just absolutely racing to the Torpoint ferry. We got on the Torpoint ferry and that's when I clocked that everyone else that we were with had no stuff with them. I mean, like, nothing. As in, just a saddlebag with some tools, and I was like, why are we riding with these people? No luggage crew, Nikki called them. Straight off the ferry and into Cornwall. We were riding with these guys for a while and it was quite nice because we got a bit of a draft behind some of their wheels and stuff. But then inevitably people started peeling off because we'd all plotted our own routes. So no luggage crew, disappeared off, and Nikki and I were left to our own devices. At that point we had our first of very, very many navigational issues. Oh. Nikki's Garmin suddenly said, course complete. And we'd only just really started, so there's no way that we completed her route. I therefore had to take over all of the navigating myself. The onus for not getting lost is now all on me. Yep. Wish me luck. Come on then, Toomey. But I did it and we rode through some really gorgeous scenery. All the way to Cornwall Services, where we stopped for some hot food, aka McDonald's chips. The athlete in her prime. From Cornwall Services we just kept plodding and eventually, you know, it was getting darker and darker and everything was shutting. A lot of Cornwall's quite remote, so there aren't really many places to resupply. There aren't even 24-hour garages. So when we rolled into Penzance, we were really hoping that we could top up on water. I had none at all, and some food before we carried on to the far more remote bit up to Sennin Cove, where we certainly wouldn't pass anything at all where we could get any food or drink. So we got to Penzance and rode to the 24-hour Tesco or something that I'd marked on my route before we set off, only to find that actually It isn't 24 hours. Well, I mean, the great big sign said 24 hours, but it wasn't actually open. So that was a real blow. I had no water at all. This was our main resupply point for the evening. And Nikki, well, she didn't have much, but she doesn't eat or drink much anyway. So I guess the main problem was me. Alongside the problem of not being able to resupply, there was also a bit of an issue with needing the toilet. So we went and we buzzed on the door at a hotel chain. I'm not going to tell you who because I don't want to get the guy in there in trouble, but we buzzed on the door and asked if we could go and use their facilities. The night manager at this hotel was so kind and friendly. He not only let us in to go and use the facilities, he offered us coffee and then went to his back room and came out with a whole enormous selection of things for us to eat. From the coffee machine, he gave us a latte with 2 double espressos tipped in it as well. So we felt absolutely brilliant drinking these coffees and eating a vast array of like cookies, biscuits, party rings, all sorts of junk basically. But the sugar and the caffeine felt amazing. We felt so hyped to be looked after by this guy and ready to ride to Sennin Cove.
Party ringed up to the eyeballs. That was so much fun.
That was the best. The best, the best, the best. So we went off to Sennin Cove, which is quite lumpy, but kind of cool. You know, you're in the middle of nowhere in the dark and it feels quite intrepid and quite fun. And plus we were like flying from all the caffeine and sugar. Eventually we got to Sennin Cove, did a massive descent, which made us sort of, you know, nervous about how we're going to get back up it. Down to the seafront, and there we encountered a few of the other riders from the event, got our brevet card stamped and filled up water and prepared for the journey back to Penzance. The big steep hill out of Sennin Cove wasn't actually that bad and probably still flying from the caffeine. We buzzed back to Penzance to pay our friendly hotel night manager another visit and stock up on more sugar and more caffeine.
What are we doing?
Being really cheeky and being looked after by lovely Ross, who's just been amazing.
He gave us another latte with a double espresso inside the latte, so that's 3 shots of caffeine. He gave us those, again, more sweets, and we carried on pedalling and we were riding along the coast out of Penzance, and it was just really, really lovely. The sun started coming up, we were really stoked to be there, and yeah, all was good. It's about 4:30 in the morning, you probably can't see it, but St Michael's Mount is over there. We're just riding through Merzion?
Yeah.
I guess we've done about 180k. I don't know. I've not really been keeping an eye on that because I'm just trying to navigate. But it's so peaceful. Trying to be quiet and not wake everyone up. But we're enjoying the peace and quiet because I think the roads are going to get a bit mad later. And so far, so good. But then, suddenly, well, I wouldn't say suddenly, it started creeping up on us. We were doing quite a hilly route and Vicky and I started to feel really, really weird. As I've said before, I've never ridden all the way through the night and I did anticipate that I might start feeling odd, which is why I decided to take the sleeping bag and stuff like that, just to make sure that, you know, I don't do anything dangerous and you know, make a big mistake on my first event of this kind. Anyway, we're riding along, Nikki and I start being, well, we're pretty silent, not really talking to each other, not being grumpy, we're just silent. But my mind starts thinking about sleep. I've been obsessing about sleep, I can't think about much else but sleep. And then Nikki says, maybe we should see if we can find a church to get a bit of sleep. I immediately latch onto the idea and lo and behold, within, you know, a few miles, we saw a church. Considering a quick power nap in this churchyard. I think a little lie down might be a good idea. Nikki said to me at this point, Jules, should I set an alarm for an hour? And I was like, what? I don't care. She's like, should I set an alarm for an hour? I was like, I don't care. I just want to lie down. It felt like absolute heaven to be lying down. But that peace and tranquility was pretty short-lived because as soon as my muscles had started to relax, my mind started just going absolutely bonkers. I think it was the 6 coffees that we'd had, but I felt like I was actually levitating or having heart palpitations, or just basically I felt like mad or something, or like I'd been partying all night. It was pretty unsettling actually, not altogether pleasant. Well, like far from pleasant. Plus there were these really annoyingly loud crows who were just like rah, 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 flying around this damn churchyard whilst I'm trying to sleep, and it was just the least restful bit of sleep I've ever had. Well, I mean, in fact, I didn't even sleep. I lay there for an hour. So the lying down was super duper nice. I didn't really want to get back up again when I heard Nikki's alarm go off after an hour. So I pretended I was asleep and just didn't move. 10 minutes later, the alarm went off again because she'd hit snooze, and she just sort of whispered to me, Jules? And I was like, She's like, Jules, do you want to get up and ride some more? Well, let me tell you, at this point, the last thing in the entire world that I wanted to do was get up and ride. All I wanted to do was stay in my wonderfully cosy cocoon. It felt so nice and cozy in my sleeping bag. I'd finally started to kind of decompress, and my mind was sort of calming down, and the physical symptoms of the caffeine were wearing off, I guess. And all of a sudden I had to get myself out of this nice warm cozy safety blanket. But as I lay there, I knew that this was a pivotal point in the whole event, and my decision would, you know, drastically and irrevocably affect the whole of the rest of my experience. I could either stay there and get more sleep, which is nice and potentially would make me feel better later, but then have to ride the entire event on my own, which would be such a different experience. Or I had to forego the sleep, just get out of bed, just go, and realise that, yes, I'd feel dreadful, but I would get to ride with Nikki for the whole of the rest of the event. I mean, unless anything went wrong.
Oh my God, look how terrible I look. What on earth are we doing? You definitely shouldn't save weight by leaving your earplugs at home, because the crows are really, really loud. God, it was impossible to sleep. But I'm glad we stopped for a bit.
Yeah, I feel much better.
I don't know if I feel much better.
No,
but
no, I do.
You? Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm going to feel better soon too.
I mean, literally, I was riding along hoping that we'd find a hay barn or something. Anything. I just knew that I was like losing the plot.
Oh, mate.
From there, I can't even remember where we went, but the next plan was to get food. But the only place that we could find open was a sort of pasty shop. We're queuing outside the bakery. She is excited about eating. I just feel really sick, but I'm going to make myself eat something anyway. I think we're going to be let in. Joy!
So excited.
Oh, you're all eager beavers this morning.
Oh, we've been up all night.
Yeah, been up all night.
Yeah.
Cycling all night. Cycle from Plymouth to Land's End.
Crazy lady. We are, we are.
Don't know what we're
doing. Reckon it's too early for a pasty? Nikki eats meat, so she was able to get a bacon sandwich, which is kind of nice and plain. There wasn't anything I could get that was plain, so I had to order a veggie pasty because I'm vegetarian. I took one bite of it and it was really spicy and filled with all sorts of weird stuff, spinach, cream, all stuff you do not want when you've not slept. And I was just hoping it was going to be really plain and boring, because obviously you have to be quite careful of your stomach on these long rides, and mine was already really unhappy with all the junk food and caffeine I'd eaten. I ain't going to feel this awful all day. To cut a long story short, that pasty was a big mistake, and I spent the whole of the rest of the event feeling sick. Actually, maybe it wasn't a pasty, it might have been the other stuff, but anyway, chucking the pasty on top of the stuff I'd previously had was a complete disaster. But on we pedalled, both feeling pretty sick, on our way to Padstow. That's better. Arriving in Padstow felt absolutely amazing. It's a really beautiful place. Unfortunately, there's a lot of construction work going on there, so we didn't get to see so much of the beautiful estuary.
You're the first women through.
Oh man, we've been to some dark places today. Oh. Anyway, let's get these brevet cards stamped and then have a nice sit down. We are still together and we are still friends. Yay! So next we're going to do a stint along the camel trail, which is flat. Yes, flat. It's been so hilly on this ride, so quite looking forward to that. We've done
250k, give or take. And if my calculations are right, it's only another 70k, but about 1,000 meters of climbing. So I don't want to be too optimistic, but if we don't massively mess this up or totally bonk or something like that, we're going to get back in time for the party tonight. Whether I'm going to want to go to the party when I get there is another matter. I think I'm probably just going to want to sleep, but who knows? Maybe I'll have a beer. Maybe I'll feel up for a beer when I get there. The ride's been so filled with enormous highs and lows. It's almost like a whole life in a day when you do something like this. You know, 1 minute you're close to tears and the next minute it's just the most incredible laugh, and yeah, really, really wonderful.
We had some food that took like forever and ever to arrive, so thank God we weren't really racing, and then got back on our bikes and pedalled along the Tarka Trail. The Camel Estuary, that's it, the Camel Estuary, the Camel Trail. So that was a real highlight. The Camel Trail is somewhere I've been meaning to go with my daughter for a long time, and it totally lived up to its reputation. It's beautiful, just incredible. Go there, just go there. It's so beautiful, it's flat, it's traffic free, the sun was shining. Nikki and I felt bloody brilliant. It was so nice. So we just cruised along the Tarka Trail, finally feeling kind of good. I'd had some very plain toast and a cup of tea at the cafe, so yeah, things were looking up. Then we hit Bodmin.
I've slightly messed up the route planning, would you believe?
When we were planning the ride together, Nikki and I decided to take the 4 segments of the ride and plan 2 segments each. So we're in Bodmin, we've done the Camel Trail, which was easy to navigate, and this is my segment of route planning and navigation. At Bodmin, I look at my Garmin and I realise that I've made a massive error with the planning. There are forbidden roads on this ride. You're not allowed to go on the A30, the A38, any of the big main A roads are verboten. And I look at my route, and from Bodmin, it's almost entirely on forbidden roads. I'm trying to really style this out and not let Nikki know that I've realised that something's gone terribly wrong, that it's all my fault. But after a while, there's just nothing I can do except tell her, but also kind of try and not tell her, but sort of tell her that I've made a bit of an error. I'm playing it down, and that I need to completely re-navigate, replan the whole of the next segment. So I go on my phone and I try and replan this route. But it's quite difficult on the fly. I wasn't so happy with Komoot because you can't adjust it on your phone the way I want to, and you couldn't. Anyway, the whole thing was a nightmare. To cut a long story short, I plotted a new route to Seaton, and Nikki was horrified by the amount of climbing it suggested, but unable to offer any alternatives throughout, despite the fact we tried Strava, we tried to ride with GPS, we tried all different ways of planning a new route. We couldn't come up with anything better, so off we went. Now this route was so hilly, and every time we went down a massive descent, I felt so awful because I knew we were going to have to climb out another really steep hill, and I just thought, oh my god, Nikki's gonna kill me. Nikki must hate me making her do all this extra climbing. Oh, this is the worst route. Oh, it's terrible.
It's so hilly and we're really suffering. So many hills. I think Nikki wants to kill me. I'm just going to stay quiet.
Nikki has started, sorry Nikki if you're watching this, Nikki has started complaining quite a lot about the hills, and I just felt like a complete arse for making her go on this route and climb all these hills. So, you know, it wasn't the greatest segment of the whole event, and it just felt like it was taking forever and ever to take us to Seaton. This Komoot route was just sending us down the most vertiginous of roads for no apparent reason. It would have been so much quicker, I'm sure, to go on different roads, but anyway, we were stuck and we had to do it, and I spent the whole time feeling dreadful because it was all my fault. We got to Seaton.
Oh, it's quite nice here.
We stamped our brevet card.
Despite the fact I've wanted so badly to get here for so long, now that we're here I just want to leave. I want to get back to the start. So quickly stamp the brevet card, toilet break, and I am off.
And from there on, it was all plain sailing back to Plymouth. It's an absolutely incredible part of the country, up what's it called, that bit? Well, there's the Rain Peninsula where I went bivvying with my friend Laura recently, and we rode, well, through Seaton, and then there's some other nice parts of that peninsula. I'm sorry, I've forgotten what it's called. I've been talking for a while now, I'm losing my train of thought. But anyway, it was a beautiful part of the ride, riding back to Torpoint, and if you ever get the chance to go there, then check out the bit between Torpoint and Seaton. It's really, really nice. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we got back to Plymouth.
Hurrah!
Made it!
Looking forward to a beer and some chips.
And our original plan had been to get there before the party ended. So Saturday night there was a party with beer, with live music, and you know, seeing as we're so starved of things like that after being locked down forever and ever, we were really excited about making it back for the party. Well, what happened was this: we got back so much earlier than we thought we would get back. Absolutely hours before the party. We were the first women back. We did it in, I don't know, within 23 hours or something, and we didn't even make it to the party because we would have had to sit around for hours and hours waiting for it to start. So that is the story of Kernow. I wonder if I've covered everything. I don't know, but looking back on it, well, I've had lots of thoughts on how I feel about events like this, how it went with Nikki, and yeah, just briefly, it did make me think more carefully about the super long distance solo self-navigated events that I'm thinking about doing later in the year, because I really liked doing it with someone. I liked riding with Nikki. You know, if you see my previous video, you'll remember that I said I wasn't sure how it would go riding with a partner. It went well. We really went well together. Sometimes I was strong and I'd be in front, other times she was strong. We both compromised on our riding styles and our eating styles. And basically, doing that ride with Nikki made me think that I want to do other events like that with Nikki. I don't want to do them on my own. So that's something that I'm going to have to think more on if I'm to stick to what I'd originally planned with Trans-Pyrenees. The other thing I found out was that I can actually ride a really long way. If I keep it steady and if I ride through the night, I can cope with that. I didn't manage to sleep, but the hour that I lay down reset my head and reset everything. I still felt terrible when I woke up and carried on, but if I hadn't have stopped, I think it would have been impossible. So I think there is a value in having a kind of power nap on a ride like this. When it comes to equipment, well, I actually didn't take the down jacket, the pair of pants, the t-shirt that I was planning on taking, because I knew I wouldn't end up in a hotel needing a t-shirt. I knew I wouldn't need a down jacket. So didn't take them. Everything else I did use, so that was very helpful, and I'm super glad that I took a sleeping bag and all that stuff. Nikki didn't have one and she really suffered when we stopped to have that power nap. Food was a bit of an issue for me. I had those nice Science in Sport bars and I started off with them, and I felt good eating those. I know they work for me, but on a really long ride like this, you have to just kind of eat what you can get. So we ended up eating all that junk food I told you about in Penzance and all the coffee. It really ruined my stomach for the rest of the ride. It made me feel really sick, like almost bee sick. So I think if I'm going to do more stuff like this, I need to somehow find a way or figure out what it is I can eat out of limited choices. I mean, obviously if there's literally nothing, you just got to eat it, but I think I need to have a list of foods that I can tolerate and just try and stick with those, like a spicy pasty at 7 in the morning when you've not slept is a bad choice. I made a good choice at McDonald's. I just had chips and that was fine. Nikki made a bad choice. She had a burger and she felt really ill. So lots to be learned. But anyway, I think that's it for now. I've probably talked quite a long time. I hope you enjoyed hearing a bit about Kernow, and I hope I've managed to tell you all the most interesting parts of it. There were lots of boring bits where we were just riding along, so I've glossed over those. But yeah, leave me any comments and questions below. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like the video and the channel, and I will see you soon. Bye!